What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. As we stand here on this channel, I'm recording this video now. I just recorded my offensive draft priorities for this draft. I'm not talking about the guys we should be drafting for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the upcoming 2022 draft, but I am talking about positional values and needs, right? So I'm looking at this from a low to high perspective. So there's high priority needs, there's medium priority needs, and there's low priority needs. And I just covered the offense. I just posted these back to back. The offensive video will be on my channel now for about the last week. So by this point that you're watching this, go back and check out my offensive needs to give you kind of a sense of what I mean by these priorities. I'm looking at high priorities for this draft and positional needs as people we need to plug and play right away. Someone that we have to draft to fill a starting need that has to step in on day one and be a starter for this team. I'm looking at something like wide receiver. We don't currently have a defined number 3 wide receiver besides Deontay and Claypool. Someone that's going to step in and start right away. Anthony Miller's is good, but he's kind of undefined, hasn't really played for the last couple of years. So I'm looking at like a wide receiver 3 as being a plug and play day one starter, so that's a high priority for me. Something like quarterback is a low priority need for me because we don't currently have our franchise quarterback, but we do have our day one starter kind of in place. So we don't need someone to come in and start on day one right away, especially in this draft class. So quarterback would be kind of a low priority need. Something like a medium priority need is something that we already have kind of figured out right now, but could use a big upgrade like offensive line. So we have our 5 offensive linemen in place right now based on free agency and re-signings, but we could upgrade certain positions. While center is pretty good, we could do better with center. While the offensive tackle Chukwueze Okorafor was re-signed, we could upgrade him. So that is a medium priority need for me in that sense. So now we're looking at defense. So again, if you guys want to see kind of my free agency needs, me talking about the free agency signings, my offensive positional values for the draft coming up, those are all on this channel already. And I'll be doing next week, I'll be doing a draft video where I talk about specifically who we should draft at 20, at 52, at all the spots that we're drafting at. I will pick 3 or 4 guys that I think are top value guys we should be targeting in the draft in each round. But for this video, I want to look at the defensive positions and tell you guys kind of where the priorities need to be in this draft. And the first spot is going to shock you. So I'm starting at defensive line, right? I'm starting at the front 3, and I'm going to say that this is a medium priority need, and that is because we don't necessarily know if we have our starters in place or not. So if the guys that we have been playing with for the last several years are there, then we have one of the best front 3s in the entire NFL. If Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and Tyson Alawalu are all out there healthy and playing, then we have a top tier, all 3 guys that are all pros playing together at a high level, and it's one of the best lines in football. So in that case, we would not need to draft somebody at all. But we don't know with Stephon Tuitt going through the loss of his family member if he is mentally ready to come back and play this year. He didn't play all of last year after, I think it was his brother, I believe, that passed away. And he stayed away mentally for his mental health. And I wish him all the best. But we don't know if we're getting Tuitt back or not next season. Tyson Alawalu came off a season-ending injury where he missed most of the season last year. When he's healthy, he's one of the best D tackles in football, and Tuitt's one of the better D ends. And then Cam Hayward is one of the best D ends as well. So do we have those 3 guys? If we have Cam, Tuitt, and Alawalu, we don't need to sign a defensive lineman, especially considering we re-signed Montravis Adams, who was a signing last season from the Saints, who played from their practice squad last year. Came in, was very valuable, got a few nice pass rushes, tackled pretty well when he got in there, batted some balls. Montravis Adams was a nice depth piece, a good backup who could fill in at starter once in a while. I like him a lot, and he's back here. Chris Wormley has played both D tackle and D end based on the needs. He has position versatility. He has flexibility in that range. He's an underrated guy. He's a good backup for us. He can plug and play at starter sometimes. Wormley's good. Also, I like Isaiah Loudermilk. We traded up in the draft last year to get him, I think, in the 5th round, and I didn't really understand why we did that. But he came in last year and played pretty well. He's an underrated athlete for a guy his size. He's strong, and he made some plays when he was in there. He didn't get enough playing time, in my opinion, last season. Loudermilk was one of our unsung bench heroes last year. So if we have all those guys healthy, we have 3 quality Pro Bowl starters and 3 solid backups, so we don't need to draft anybody. But if we don't have Tuitt and/or Alawalu, now all of a sudden the bench guys are being forced into full-time starting duty and there's no depth. So that's what I'm saying when I say medium priority, because if we need someone to come in there and we can draft one of the top level guys in the first 2 rounds, if we're looking at someone like a Devontae Wyatt or Jordan Davis falls to us, I don't, it's definitely something to think about. I don't think it's our number one priority, but considering we don't know the future of 2 of our 3 Pro Bowl guys and our line is getting older, you do want to get some more guys in there. So we currently have 6 guys that I like on that D line. But depending on injury and depending on who's going to fill in full time and how the depth chart's going to get bumped up, that is something to look at if a Jordan Davis or Devontae Wyatt falls to us at 20. So medium range priority for me there. Now we're looking at outside linebacker. Pittsburgh was weird at outside linebacker last year because not only did we have, obviously, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, who are our guaranteed starters, but we had, the veteran from the Chiefs, or was it the Chiefs that came in last year? Or he went to the Chiefs afterwards. He was here and then he left. So he played for us for a little bit. And then we had a camp phenom who came in and made the team in preseason based on getting like 4 or 5 sacks. Whoops. Drop that camera. Okay, still going. Had no idea what I just did. But yes, we had a camp phenom that came in and got 4 or 5 sacks last year. And so we retained him and let go of our, I think it was a 6th round draft pick. We picked up the guy from Miami and all of a sudden let him go. So it wound up being a situation where the guy from Miami from the draft goes to the Giants, the camp phenom gets cut for no reason, and the veteran signing we had, Melvin Ingram, goes off to the Chiefs and plays well for them. So we lose 3 potential guys backing up Watt and Highsmith. So we wind up with Watt and Highsmith. Let me fix this camera. Oh, we are live, folks. The things that happen on live YouTube. But yeah, so we let those 3 guys go, and we have no one to back up our two starters. And of course, they both get hurt last year at different times. So we wind up with the Tuska played back there a little bit, and a couple other guys. We didn't have any depth last year. So I'm gonna say it's a low range need, but we do need depth. So maybe call it medium. We need someone else to come off the bench. We did pick up Gennard from the Cleveland Browns, who started for them for a little bit, played well against us in the game against us. So we have a veteran piece back there now. So there are at least 3 guys that if they are healthy, we're solid there. But you do want to get at least one more guy, probably in the low rounds. You don't want to make it a high priority. The outside linebacker is not something we should be getting in the first 3 rounds. This shouldn't be a day 1 or day 2 pick, but to get another guy at day 3 who's got a high motor who can get some sacks for us, we need to be drafting better and keeping guys in the late rounds with something like that. So I'm going to say low priority. It's not a necessity, but if there are injuries, you need more depth. Yes. Now we're going inside linebacker. And Miles Jack is here now. That is a big, big help for us as far as speed, as far as tackling, upgrading in pass coverage. And I think he's going to make Devin Bush a lot better. Devin Bush is the X factor this season. I think he's going to improve Devin Bush, who played great in his rookie season and not so good last year. So this is really important to see what Bush can really do for us. Beyond those 2 guys, you have still Buddy Johnson, who was drafted last year, who's a speed guy, who didn't get to play much. You have Ulysses Gilbert, who's been on the bench for the last 3 or 4 years and shows a lot of potential and plays okay in preseason, but doesn't play much in the regular season. And then you have Robert Spillane, who's a very good, fast guy, downhill tackler, physical, but can cover to save his life. Kind of like Devin Bush. So depth, maybe, yes, but I think with the guys you already have on that roster, you got your 2 starters, you got Spillane, and you got the unknown Johnson in his second year, and you've got Gilbert, who's fighting for his final year of a roster spot. I don't think you draft an inside linebacker. I think Miles Jack helps that this year. If you draft somebody and you decide that Devin Bush is not very good and he's not going to be our long-term guy after this season because he's playing for a contract, then you let him go and you draft somebody else next year because Spillane's not a full-time starter. But I think with Miles Jack and Devin Bush this year, and then Buddy Johnson and Spillane backing him up, I think you're okay at inside linebacker, so low priority. Cornerback is another one I've seen targeted quite a bit, and I've got to say, I love Derek Stingley. If Derek Stingley is there at 20, he's somebody I'm definitely considering. I like his physicality. Corner is definitely something you can never have too many of. Corner, especially in Pittsburgh, we don't always draft corners well. But there are guys like Stingley and Kyer Elam. This is definitely a pretty good corner draft. There's a lot of corners in this draft. which is why I probably wouldn't draft one in the first round or two, because you can get some really solid ones in the third and fourth round. I think there was one from Virginia Tech that I liked. Brian Cook I saw from Cincinnati is out there. There's a bunch of guys in that third and fourth round range who you can get for depth. But right now we have our starters in place. We have Ahkello Witherspoon, who we re-signed as our cornerback 1. We have Levi Wallace from Buffalo, who's physical on the outside, as our cornerback 2. Cam Sutton is now bumped back to the inside where he belongs at cornerback 3. So you got those 3 guys you like, and then you have your slot depth already figured out because you've retained Arthur Maulet and Trey Norwood, who both showed potential at times. Norwood in coverage, Maulet in tackling. They both showed some positive stuff there. So you got your slot depth, you got your 2 main outside guys. So you don't need too much. But if you want to get a value corner in the 4th round, I'm cool with that. If you want to get Brian Cook from Cincinnati or someone like that in the 4th, I'm totally cool with that. So I would say it's a low priority need because you have your 3 starters and you have some trusted guys in the backup depth positions. So I don't think you have too many worries. But if you want to get another outside guy who's physical, who can play on the outside, nothing wrong with that. I would say it's a low priority. But again, if you get a guy like a Stingley or someone that falls to you that can be your future, that's not a bad pickup. Then we go to safety. And safety is by far our biggest need. If you're noticing that I haven't put any high priority values out there yet, only a few mediums, this is the high priority. When I say high priority, again, what am I talking about? Guys who have to come in and play right away. Well, as it stands, obviously Minkah Fitzpatrick is our all-pro safety, one of the best in the league. But as far as being next to him right now, we did not re-sign Terrell Edmunds yet, and nobody has. We did not sign Honey Badger yet. Nobody has. So there are plenty of guys out there right now. There's a class of safeties that would be probably decent money. Like, it wouldn't cost too much to sign, who could plug in right now. We did re-sign the guy from Los Angeles Raiders. Is it Joseph? I think it's Joseph, who we re-signed, who can be a nice depth piece. Carl Joseph is a veteran who's played a bit. He can be a good like dime package kind of slot extra safety in there. But as far as starting, I don't know if you want to put him as your full-time starter next to Minkah. If you don't wind up signing somebody, and by the time that I post this, they may have already signed somebody, but if they don't, and they probably won't right now, if you don't get a guy like Honey Badger or Terrell Edmunds, safety is your number 1 priority because you need somebody to come in right away. And thankfully, this draft is also solid with safeties. There are quite a bit of decent stuff. I've seen Daxton Hill going in the late 1st round, who could be there for us from Michigan. He's a disruptor and a ball hawk. I like him a lot. I've seen Kirby Joseph I think it's Syracuse, in the 2nd round. I've seen a couple other guys as well. There's the guy from Jalen Petrie from Baylor. So I've seen quite a bit of pretty good physical safeties who I think could be day 1 starters, going as late as like mid-2nd, early 3rd round. So even if we don't go 1st round safety, we could go 2nd. So it is definitely a high priority. If we sign an Edmunds or a Honey Badger, it suddenly becomes a medium priority because all you need is depth. But I think we have our number 2 safety in there with Joseph from the Raiders. But we do need a starting safety right now. So as it stands right now, that is one of our biggest priorities. I'm looking, again, I don't want to spoil the offensive video if you've not seen it, but I'm looking at wide receiver on offense and safety on defense as the 2 biggest spots where we do not have defined starters in those spots. Wide receiver 3 and safety 1 next to Minkah. We need those spots filled immediately. And so I'm looking at the first 2 rounds, either going wide receiver safety or safety wide receiver. Those are the 2 places I'm looking. And just kind of to summarize, immediate needs, again, safety and wide receiver are our 2 biggest. But other places we could definitely upgrade. We could get a better center. We could get a better offensive tackle to replace Chooks. Center, of course, Mason Cole, I think, is a solid spot starter, but we could get a better guy, and he could be a good number 2. And then looking at defense, obviously on the defensive line, we could use depth, and that's an onshore position. So once you take care of that wide receiver and safety in your first 2 rounds, round 3 could be looking at a corner for depth, could be looking at an outside linebacker for depth, or could be looking at defensive line. And that's the 3rd spot we might be needing a starter in, depending on what happens with Alawalu and Tuitt. So I apologize for the technical difficulties on the camera at different points, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, go back and check out my full offensive rundown if you guys haven't seen that yet. And I will be coming back next week. I've talked now about every position. I've broken down who we have on the roster at every spot, offense and defense. And now I'm going to come back next week and talk about who exactly I would draft. I've told you the positions. I've not told you the players. Next week, I'm going to tell you the players that I'd be looking to draft in each position. So I'm looking at 2 to 3 guys in each roster, in each draft spot for us in the first, at least the first 3 or 4 rounds that I would pick up and add to this team to make our team more complete. Who are you guys looking at? What positions of need do you think? How do you guys categorize the defense? D-line, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, corner, safety. What do you guys think are our biggest spots of need? And what do you think I missed out on? Do you think I was too lenient on certain things? Do you think I was too flippant on certain things? Tell me in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to these videos if you like these Steeler positional deep dives. And I will do more of these, and I'll see you guys with my draft predictions and hopes next week.